Well, maybe I can talk about the installation in general. Are you recording now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. One of my favorite views is in this direction where you go from the window all the way to this corner because the pieces are arranged in a way that it's monochromatic. There is almost all black and white pieces, and so there's not a competition for attention, and then you can kind of observe some of the other details about the pieces.
Are you saying that they all have their own space, so they don't have to compete with each other?
Well,
if they're
it's
too closely?
visually they're not competing, because if they're all like, if one's bright colors and the other one's not bright colors, then there's sort of a competition. And here there's no color really, except for the natural tones in here. But another interesting thing that happened was the installation of this piece near this piece. This is a photograph, and the artist is photographing tire tracks in a parking lot and the water running across the macadam, but he's observing the light and the way that it's reflecting off of that surface. And so if you look at that and it's in association with this piece, this artist is using this idea of fluidity and running water, or running liquids anyway, with these drip effects in the paint, but then she's doing it in using a really textured surface. There's layers of paper and wax and thread, and the closer you get to it, the more you notice that there's like stitching.
It is, yeah, I see that.
And the grid is connoting sort of this idea of building up a material and that kind of thing. So
I did like this one. I like that one.
Yeah, so I think that's something that I could add to the conversation, that the curation or the installation, how things are sequenced together, how they look next to each other.
Is that important when you're going to exhibit art?
Yeah, it is, and especially when you're installing a show, because we could have put these pieces anywhere in the gallery, but we wanted them all to look their best, and we wanted things to make sense together. And so like the big leaves with the painting with the hat, there's nature, flowers, leaves, there's sort of an organic thing that's going on through these pieces over here. And then there's a color conversation. There's sort of autumn earth tones in
I see
both of these pieces. The big floppy hat that guy's wearing is sort of repeated by the shape of the leaves that are on the wall and that kind of thing.
So these are things that you don't notice until they're pointed out to you.
And
I didn't notice it.
Well, but that's exactly right, because my job is to present it so you notice the artwork and it looks its best. So a show in a gallery like this or at a museum, you really shouldn't notice all of the things around it, but it should look right. Like there shouldn't be any distractions. You see the artwork, you enjoy the artwork, but all these things are sort of working in the background.
Okay.
Like what it's next to, the way it's lit, the height that it is hung at, and all of that kind of stuff.
Okay. In your opinion, what direction is modern day art heading toward?
I have no idea.
You don't know?
No, and in fact, all throughout art history, no one really knows what's happening in the art period that you're in. Only until it's sort of completed and finished, and then people can look back on it. All throughout history, there are examples of how things resonate with a certain time period, and that's kind of why it survives. And so like Jackson Pollock doing his splatter paintings in the 50s, that resonated with that time period. But people back then thought he was crazy. You go back and you look at other stuff throughout art history, it kind of means something at the time, but a lot of times it's really disturbing to people at that time, and it isn't until much later, even the Impressionists were doing things that people thought were outrageous and not art. And then later, now they're the most loved art that there is. It's like the Impressionist paintings and all that stuff.
One more question. What about art and politics? What do you feel about that? Does art has a way of influencing politics? Like if somebody was to draw a picture of Trump, for example.
Plenty of them have been made. I think that there's an interesting. I teach a class that's called Art and Images of Social Justice Movements, and so we're in a world that is just saturated with imagery.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly some things that people are saying are art might not end up being seen as art in the long run. So even though people are, like those nude statues of Trump that showed up in the cities, the guerrilla art, that was made by an artist, that was presented, but is that going to stand the test of time? Is that really high art? You know, like what, I think in a lot of ways it's doing what the artist wanted it to do. Banksy does, you know, this sort of interruption art where he's doing graffiti art. The politics of art and images, I think by adding that and images, because sometimes it's just an image that's being presented and it's not necessarily done for the purposes of art.
Okay. Do you think that satire, political satire that you see in newspapers nowadays, that might have some commentary of modern day politics, has any effect on politics itself?
Oh, that's hard to say. I have no idea.
You see a lot of it, though. You open up the newspaper, you might see drawings of a particular politician, and he's drawn up to look a certain way. You might see it back in like the 1930s.
That's always been around. That's been around. And like I said, that's illustration or cartooning or satire, and you know, those things at times have become ensconced in the fine art world and collected or thought of as important markers, but a lot of the time that's just it's just another media image. It's just another snapshot.
Exactly. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate your interaction with the show.
I like it a lot. I didn't think it was going to be this interesting, but I like it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Good luck in your class.
Thank you.